Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back. So today I'm going to work on the Z and try to figure out this idle, high revving, seems like a vacuum leak issue. So I did go around and check it with some spray and I couldn't find any vacuum leaks, but I'm looking at this gasket and for the throttle body, and there's a fly in here that's really distracting me. I wish it was a bee. They're easier to kill because they slow down a little bit. Flies just kind of go crazy all the time. So I'm looking at this throttle body, and one of the things I already did off camera was take it apart just to make sure the gears are good and everything was fine there. I did also run it with the intercooler piping off to see if it was closing, and the way I have it set up right now in the tune, it's actually commanding almost all the way closed. So I wanted to make sure it was going to the right physical position, and it was. It's almost all the way closed when it's running. And that was all okay. Gears looked good. That all seemed fine. So one thing I started to look at was if there was a potential leak on the backside of the throttle body. So something interesting that I think I found, or maybe it's interesting, is if we look at the gasket. This gasket came with the throttle body, but I didn't put it on because the intake has a rubber O-ring type gasket on it. So if we look on the outsides, it might be a little bit tough to see, but with all the holes lined up in the right spot, if you look at the outsides, the gasket is actually on the inside of the outer edges of the throttle body. So, and if I pull this side over all the way to where it matches, that side's overhanging quite a bit. See how much I have to push it over to get it to overhang over here? So the inner part of the gasket is on the inside of the opening. So now if I take the same gasket and I put it on the intake, you can see that the outer part of the O-ring is almost on the inside completely of the blue gasket. So I'm thinking what that was causing was a little bit of a leak on the inside here, especially when it had high vacuum. The top and bottom are probably good sealing, but the inside, middle, was probably, O-ring probably too far on the inside of the throttle body. So I'm going to check that and try to verify that by putting this thing on there. But one other issue that I can see already is that this intake is bumped out a little bit here. So you can see there's like a raised ring right there. So even if I seat this ring down all the way, so even if I seat this gasket down all the way, it still has a little spot here where the gasket's going to kind of dip in, because the backside of this is completely flat, and these little raised edges are going to create a little bit of a valley inside here. So smaller throttle body would probably be fine because you'd be pushing it right against the O-ring, but this thing is too big. Actually has too big of an opening. It's coming onto the outside of the gasket. So that may be a little bit of a issue. Maybe I'll need to go with like a 92 or stock throttle body size or something, but I'm going to try to get this to work. Alright, so I got this thing idling, running pretty decent. You saw on the scan, it had the timing back in it. It was like fluctuating between, 10 and 18, kind of chopping back and forth. It actually sounded pretty good, so all I did was put a gasket in here with the O-ring, and then I used a little cardboard gasket spacer in there. So yeah, essentially I think it was just leaking behind here. I did spray it, like I said, but it didn't actually show any leak. I didn't see idle changing or anything when I did spray it. So, but it was kind of obvious when I took it off and I looked at the shape of the gasket and the size, and it didn't really work with the rubber ring that was on there. So for whatever reason, it was sealing on the top and bottom. And then I think it was sucking air in still on the sides. So as soon as I changed that, I started it and it idled down, and it was trying to idle at like 300 and die. And then I put some airflow back into it. That's literally all I changed. I did the gasket, put some airflow back into it, and then changed the idle speed back to 850. And now it's just fine. So that was pretty much it. A lot of headache for something stupid, but no, I think the exhaust leak that I had isn't even that bad, because it was idling a little bit lean, but not too bad. So I'll probably still try to fix that, but it definitely isn't off the gauge lane. It was idling at like a 15.5, so not a huge deal. I think it was just blasting a bunch of extra air in. So anyways, guys, kind of short video today. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Oh, and I did pick up some brake line for this. So we got the wheels mounted. Those are straight, those are tight. Steering is pretty much done, but I did pull out one of the brake lines. So this is the brake line for the front, or no, this one's the back. Brake line for the back, and then I'm gonna pull out the brake line for the front. What I'm thinking happened is someone accidentally cut it. So maybe when they were doing the tube front, trying to cut some stuff up. And why I think it was an accident is because there's a bunch of little nicks inside this brake line here. You see, this is the one that goes to the front. There's like a little hole there where it looks like it got nicked, and then a couple little chunks down here. So I'm thinking somebody was probably cutting this part here to cut the front end off. And then, this was probably up right here and just got snagged, and that portion got nicked, and all the brake lines need to be redone. So I did pick up some brake line tubing, some 3/16 brake line, and a bunch of fittings, and I'm going to redo all of it. So basically every brake line in the car. Other than that, there's not a whole lot that needs to get done yet with this car. See, I got their back wheels off. Looked over everything. I did put the rear caliper bracket on the passenger side, tightened that all up, and then the rest is just basically brake lines, and then it will move, steer, and stop. Well, if you push it, then I just got to get it moving on its own power, which will be the fun part. So pretty close, but I wanted to get this thing out of the way because it's been kind of bugging me just sitting on the road and not figuring out what's going on with it. So that's where we're at.